Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back for another card review. So in this video, I feel it's going to be a super long card review because we're going to go through all the multiple combinations that Gurren Lagann has released. Right, so there will be 3 new combinations and I'm going to touch on all of them in this particular video. Right, so starting off with the smallest combination, which is still a 2-card combination, Gurren Lagann, which consists of Viral and Enki, as well as the older version of Simon. Okay, so we're going to go through the combination part. So this, what you're seeing on screen here, is the effects that you get upon combination. Right, so upon combination, you fully recover your HP, and for 2 rounds, character attack times 4, and character damage can be dealt regardless of combo shield. Right, so take note, this is only a 2-round buff, and it kind of gives you a slight advantage for just 2 rounds. Alright, so nothing much to go through here. Right, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, so next we're going to talk about the leader skill. So every combination have a slightly different leader skill, right? So let's talk about this Gurren Lagann one first. Right, so if the team consists of only Gurren characters and Spiral King, so notice that there is, upon the older Simon, once you play the older Simon gameplay, there is no more Machina in the leader skill, right? So which means that you cannot put in things like Pompey, you cannot put in things like Smilodon and stuff like that. It's going to be a pure Gurren Lagann play style. Alright, so team attack 6.5, HP and recovery 1.2. The more attributes of Runestones dissolve, the higher the team attack. So to the max times 3 if you dissolve pretty much all the attributes Water, Fire, Earth, Light, Dark. And then if there's an additional effect in play, damage received minus 50%. So all look very similar to what we have in the previous Gurren Lagann. I think the only changes is the more attribute dissolve, the higher the attack. Alright, so this one is a slight change in terms of the condition to increase your max multiplier. Alright, so I'll touch on this later, whether this is good or bad. Alright, so this is the team skill for Gurren Lagann. So as usual, turn the craft into the spiral power. Upon completion of moving each runestones, you do have also a 3x3 explosion to tap on. So instead of generating Water, Fire, Earth enchanted, right, for the old Gurren Lagann, you now drop a Water, Earth and Heart instead. Okay, so the rest is pretty much the same. If Water, Fire, Earth exploded, you increase your team attack, and then for Heart Rune exploded, recover 10,000 HP per Heart Rune. Alright, so the bottom part doesn't change, so do take note that the auto generation of the explosion 3x3 is going to generate Fire, Earth, Heart instead of Water, Fire, Earth enchanted runes. Okay. Alright, so now this is the part that I'm gonna start commenting on in terms of a proper card review. Right, so this is the continuation of the team skill. So you can see that Gurren Lagann launches an extra fire attack as much as 50%. That's pretty much a very normal thing for fusion monsters. Right, so next, this is the one that I'm going to talk about. Next round, turn the column below leader ally into enchanted fire Machina runes. Alright, so this is where I feel that it's going to be quite redundant. Right, so usually when you play Gurren Lagann, for example, you usually will throw in Yoko, right, for that extra damage buff. And Yoko actually removes Light and Dark on the board already. Right, so on top of that, if you're going to continuously convert below the leader ally into enchanted fire Machina runes, chances of you losing water and earth on the board is going to be pretty high. Right, so if let's say you only have 2 water runes or only have 2 earth runes on the board, right? So that is only fire and heart runes dissolve on the first batch, and that is not going to be a very good multiplier for the leader skill, right? So leader skill, remember that the more attributes you dissolve, the higher the multiplier, right? So I feel that this is somehow conflicting in terms of getting out the max multiplier potential, right? So this is one thing to take note of. Okay, so moving on to the active skill. So active skill 1 pretty much is Simon's skill. So I'm not going to touch on the same thing. So release lock skills, explode, petrified, and 3 bottom rows. That's the same. And then the only changes is that you now, upon exploding the bottom 3 rows, is going to generate Water, Fire, Earth, Light, Dark, Heart enchanted in a horizontal position, right? So that is kind of good, in the sense that you can just solve Enchanted Quintet straight away without spinning, right? And then character attack times 5, and then it ignores defense, right? So in my opinion, I think that the bottom one is pretty useless, right? Unless because the damage is going to be pretty massive already, right? And then Petrified Runes is just an additional buff, right? What we already have for the pre-evolution Simon. Okay, so this is a Viral Enki and a Simon combination. So naturally, active skill number 2 belongs to Viral and an Enki. So active skill turns all runestone into enchanted Machina runestones. So you have that extra raised runes there. So that help you to get rid of things like weathered runes and stuff like that. Okay, so dodge and attack for human, Machina, and demon enemies. Right, so this is pretty much the same thing. And then instead, I find that if this is incorporated into a fusion monster, right, so damage dealt on enemy times 2.5 is going to be pretty massive, right? But then again, not the best active skill out there, right? So I believe Gurren Lagann is going to be one of the least used combinations, right? So if you were to play a 2 fusion, I would still prefer to use the original Simon Kamina combination instead of Gurren Lagann, right? But this is my own take, it's my own opinion on this particular 2-card fusion, right? So overall, that's all. Not a very strong combination, right? But the next 2 is going to be pretty interesting. Okay, so with that, let's touch on the next combination, which is Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann. So this consists of a 4 fusion, which consists of Kitan, Yoko, Simon, as well as Viral and Enki once again. Alright, so with this, upon combination, fully recover HP, charge the craft, and for 4 rounds, character attack times 4 and damage dealt regardless of combo shield. Right, so pretty much the same thing as the 2-card fusion we saw just now, just that instead of 2 rounds, this effect lasts for 4 rounds, right? Because of 4 character fusion, I guess. Alright, so just an additional bonus for the combination part. Alright, so let's talk about the leader skill. So here is going to be slightly different. So once again, I'm not going to touch on the Gurren Lagann playstyle already because it's pretty much the same thing. Right, so let's move on to effect number 1. Team attack 6.5, same. HP recovery 1.2, same as just now. Right, so now you can see that there's an extend rune movement regardless by 2 seconds, which is what the 2-card fusion doesn't have. Alright, so single attack becomes full attack. This is something special as well. Right, so you don't really have to worry about dissolving 5 fire to launch a full attack, right? So basically just do as many combos as you can, do the 3-3 classic stack as well to get more combo, and then it will just launch a full attack. Okay, of course there's pros and cons, just that by the time you fuse, you shouldn't be storing CD anymore, right? So I think single attack to full attack doesn't really matter, right, as compared to Lü Bu, right? So Lü Bu you have to kind of store, but it launches full attack, right? So by the time you fuse, doing full attack shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so next, the more attribute dissolve, the higher the team attack. Okay, so this one is whereby we have the same effect just now. Alright, so but this team here have a higher chance of getting this max times 3. Alright, I'll talk about that later. Okay, and then when there's an additional effect in play, damage received minus 50%, right, which is pretty much able to trigger every single turn. Moving on to the spiral power. Right, so craft will change to spiral power, and upon completion of movement, right, this time you're going to tap a 5x5 explosion instead of a 3x3, so that's basically the entire board, right, leaving just 5 runes untouched. Right, so this is a very good board clear, right? If you have electrifying runes, frozen runes, partial frozen runes, stuff like that, right, you can easily remove pretty much the entire board, right? So I believe there are like annoying skills like cross, weathered, or pretty much 8 weathered runes on the board and stuff like that, right? This 5x5 pretty much solve the entire problem. Okay, so once you do that, you generate non-light, non-dark enchanted runes. So basically water, fire, earth, heart, I believe. Okay, so after that, when you explode water, fire, earth, you get that team attack times 2. So these are all additional effects, so that will kick in that 50% damage reduction as well, what we see in the leader skill. Right, so what you want to take note here is for each heart rune exploded, you recover 15,000 HP instead of 10,000. Right, so this is a boost or a buff compared to the Gurren Lagann and the traditional Gurren Lagann team, which only recovers 10,000 HP. Okay. So the continuation of the team skill. So this extend rune movement to 15 seconds. So I believe 15 seconds is not regardless. right? But then still 15 seconds is a very long movement time. So this allows you to pretty much clear the entire board, right? So should you have a second Yoko, you can put 2 Yoko in the team, and then you can still activate the Yoko, and then the first Yoko will be part of the combination, right? So this is what I usually do for Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann to get that maximum multiplier. Okay, so with that, you can see that Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann launches extra attack, right? It might seem like a lot, but to be honest, it's a 4-card combination, so it makes sense for this card to launch, you know, that amount of attacks, 2 fire, 2 earth, and 2 light at 50% each round. Okay, so that's pretty normal. Alright, so this is starting to be a marathon card review, right? So let's continue. Active skill number 1 for Super Galaxy. So with skill release, explode petrified. So basically the same thing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 is the same as what we have for Arch Gurren Lagann as well. Right, so take note that character attack times 6. This is slightly higher, I believe. Okay, and then character damage dealt regardless of defense is pretty much an extra bonus. Okay, so should you encounter things like super high defense, right? Which I feel is unlikely, because nowadays when enemy comes with super high defense, it usually comes with petrified runes, and then effect number 2 pretty much solved the entire problem already, right? So I would just say active skill number 1, the thing is going to be the auto generation of runes as well as the character attack times 6, which is the main part of this active skill. Okay. Right, so moving on to active skill 2, which belongs to King Kitan. So you can see the unlimited movement without dissolving for 15 seconds, so you have a time tunnel. And then for 1 round, combo count plus 2 for every group of runestones dissolved in first batch, right? So here, it kind of took over Kamina's position, in a sense that you can create more combos, right? So what you can do is you can have these 4 cards here, right? So if you have a spare Yoko, that would potentially be your 5th member, right? So that's my traditional setup for my own Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann playstyle, right? So if you do not have 2 Yoko, you can put in Kamina, right? But the damage will not be as high, right? But you can see that King Kitan here kind of give you that extra combo, so you can potentially still clear stuff like above 10 plus combo shield and stuff like that. Okay, so one thing to note. Right, so overall I find that this 4 fusion is pretty much a very stable fusion card in terms of defense and in terms of the skill that's given, right? The 5x5 explosion is extremely useful, and then a dropping of water, fire, earth, although it's not a fixed position like Arch Gurren Lagann and the original Gurren Lagann, which guarantees you 3 combo, right? But it's still a great source of board clear every single round, right? And then in terms of the active skill, I think it's pretty well done. It's just that we might, if we are encountered things like short runes and stuff like that, you might want to bring in Liron, or you want to bring in cards like Kamina still as the 5th member to add 3 rolls for you to spin that extra to kind of avoid short runes and stuff like that. Alright, so overall I think that this card here, damage wise, is good, utility wise is good, right? So I believe this is one of the more popular fusion forms of the new combination possibilities, right? Okay, so with that, let's move on to the last combination form. Alright, so a lot of people are super hyped for this one, so because of that the Metazord kind of fusion, right, which fills the entire team. Okay, so you can see it's a 5-card fusion, so this includes that ultimate stage card, which is the Dark Machina card, right? I'm not sure the name, but with this consists of that card, Yoko, Simon, Nia, as well as Viro and Enki. So in this case, King Kitan is out of the picture. So upon fusion, you get to recover full HP as well, charge the craft, and then this one, for 99 rounds, first batch drop will be water, fire, earth, and heart enchanted. Okay, so right from the start, I can already point out that this card, although very strong, right, is not ideal if you run into stages that have neutralized reset for more than one time. Right, so if you were to encounter a stage with neutralized reset, it's possible for you to do a fusion after that stage, right? But that kind of cripple your damage at the front part, right? But if you have a stage that have multiple neutralize and reset, right, these 99 rounds will be neutralized, and that would kind of lower the damage overall for this Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, right? So that's one thing to take note of. If the stage have no neutralize reset, then go ahead and use Tengen Toppa, I think that this card is pretty strong in terms of damage output as well, right? So one thing to take note of, right? If there's a neutralize reset, try to avoid this fusion form. Alright, so quickly touch on the leader skill. So you notice that it's a very short leader skill as compared to what we see in the previous two cards. Right, so here basically when there's only Gurren character, which is you don't say, right? Because it fits the entire team already. So you have a team attack times 7.5, right? So previously it was 6.5 for the two fusion cards. I believe 7.5 is one of the highest multipliers in the game already, right? But the downside is there is no other hidden multiplier. It's just a flat 7.5. Okay, so let's move on to the team skill. Alright, so for the team skill, I believe a lot of players kind of missed out on this, right? So including myself, I kind of found out this not too long ago as well, okay, after playing Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann for a while. Right, so you actually acquire this rainbow spiral power, which is actually different from what you have for the other traditional Gurren Lagann and the Arc version and the Super Galaxy version, right? So this rainbow spiral power you can actually tap to activate. So this one is pretty much the same as your Nen skill, your minor elf skill and stuff like that. You can actually tap to activate it when your craft is full. Okay, so for 2 rounds, damage received will become 0, so you can kind of dodge your initial shield and stuff like that. Okay, so for all runestones possess effect of attributive runestones, so pretty much a whole board possession there. All attributive runestones possess 25% of hard runes, so recovery shouldn't be that big of a problem, right? Extend rune movement to 10 seconds, which is slightly lesser than the Super Galaxy, which is 15 seconds. And then Tengen Toppa launch an extra 5 attack each round, which is pretty strong in my opinion. Alright, so here's the kicker, right? The second part of the team skill. So turn all runestones into Enchanted Machina runestones next round. Right, so you can see this as a continuous damage boost, right? So you have a full enchanted board and you have a Machina runes every single round, right? So one thing to take note of is this card might not be able to bypass stuff like enchanted enemies that have skills. For example, enchanted runes deal 0 damage, right? So that's going to be a problem for this team, right? So there is still downsides, and let's take a look what else do we have, right? Sticky runes will be nullified, so that's a plus. Right, so still vulnerable to burning, so that's one thing to take note of. So single attack becomes full attack as well, so here pretty much just spin as many combos as you can, don't really have to focus on dissolving 5 for full attack. Right, so based on the current wave, Gurren Lagann, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann attack increase accordingly to the max times 10. Right, so this is some additional multiplier that increases by wave. Right, so there's one thing that I can kind of foresee Tengen Toppa doing is things like a super long transmigration stages, or even like the Chronos Gate extra that lasts for 20 battles, right? So take note that this is based on current wave, so there's no point in storing at battle 1 just to kind of increase Tengen Toppa's damage, right? So it doesn't work like that. So the more battles you have, the stronger Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann will be, to the max times 10, which is pretty disgusting actually. Alright, so one thing to take note of, do not store in the same wave, because that's not going to increase your multiplier, right? So just kind of burst through the entire battle. That's the main point of this 5-card fusion form. Alright, so let's touch on the active skill. So CD3, very short actually. So for 2 rounds, combo count +1 for every group of runestones dissolved. So this one is kind of okay, considering you only have there is no there is actually, that's active skill number 2. But let's talk about this one first. Okay, so for 2 rounds, so you get a 2-round buff here instead of 1 round. Right, so combo count +1, which is okay. I think the Super Galaxy was +2. Right, so you kind of have an extra combo count, so that's fine. It's not gonna reach. It's definitely not gonna reach too high of a combo count as compared to Super Galaxy. I believe Super Galaxy is able to hit more combos than this Tengen Toppa version. Okay, and then number 2 is a unique skill to Tengen Toppa itself, which is using Spiral Power to inactivate. Okay, I don't know why point 2 and point 3 is pretty much the same thing. Right, Spiral Power to inactivate them, and damage dealt on enemy times 2.5. Right, so You can use it, number one, either to inactivate them or to pretty much burst them down, right? So these two don't really complement each other. It's either one or the other, right? Either inactivate them or you kind of deal 2.5 times damage, and that's pretty much going to be overkill, right? So active skill number 2. So if you're going to pair this with active skill number 1, it's going to be pretty disgusting in terms of the damage. I tried it before. It usually reached about 500 billion damage. So it's going to break the ceiling for this entire game again. Okay, so active skill number 2 adds 3 roles, right? So these 3 roles has already been arranged for you in terms of water, fire, earth, light, dark, heart, enchanted, machina runes, right? So that's a lot of damage. Okay, so number 2, extend rune movement to 15 seconds, so pretty much like what we have for chaos, right? Just that the entire 3 rows on top it has been arranged for you. So what you need to do is just to arrange the bottom part of your board. Okay, so there's 15 seconds there. And then character launch extra attacks, 4 extra attacks actually, that disregards puzzle shield as well as combo shield. Right, so puzzle shield is one thing. I believe if you activate 3 roles, you can't really activate the craft, right? So it's actually a good thing to ignore puzzle shield as well. Right, so usually for Machina team, we activate the Miku craft to ignore puzzle shield sometimes, but adding extra 3 roles, we are unable to activate the craft, right? But this active skill has incorporated the ignore puzzle shield, so that's pretty much very good. Right? But the downside is the character enters a dying state at the end of the round. But I believe usually people won't use this active skill until it is the boss, because the normal spin damage is actually pretty sick in terms of the output, damage output. Right? So this is pretty much your final blow for your boss 1 or boss 2. Right? Even if you kind of burst at boss HP number 1, I believe you have enough HP to tank one hit, right? Or if not, you can use the rainbow spiral effect to kind of dodge, and then your Tengen Toppa can attack again, right? Many ways to play around this, right? But overall, the only downside I see for this card is that neutralize reset, right? It's gonna remove your 99 rounds of buff, and that's not gonna be very good in terms of these cards damage output. Okay, so the damage output massively relies on the 99 rounds, so that's gonna be a buff. Right? I'm not saying that without that 99 it's not gonna be strong, but it's gonna take out most of the damage out there. Okay, so in my opinion, which combination is the best? I would say Super Galaxy Gurren Lagann would be the best combination. Right, I'm gonna use that pretty often, I feel. Right, if these 3, if you were to ask me out of these 3 combination, right, Super Galaxy would definitely be my go-to, right, and then I would really not touch Arch Gurren Lagann at all, right. I would rather go for the Kamina traditional Gurren Lagann setup if I were to play that 2 fusion anyways, right. So this is going to be a long card review. I tried to shorten it and talk as fast as possible. Hopefully you guys get some insight and how to play around with each and every combinations out there, right? So with that, I will do a finalized opinion on the entire Gurren Lagann collaboration, which is going to come pretty much at the end of the collab. I'm not sure whether more cards are going to be out, right? But after that, I'm going to do a closure for this entire collab. Okay, so with that, that's the end of the card review. If you guys enjoy, do leave it a like. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.